And welcome once again to another session of The Healing Path with White Wolf von Atzingen. I'm Randy Moggins for Off Planet Radio, and this is the fourth installment in the ongoing series that we're doing together. And White Wolf, I want to welcome you back for another session.
Thank you, Randy. Again, good to be here. And been keeping quite busy, and but I've had a good amount of time to think about this show because, as some people who follow my work might realize, that I am spending a great deal of time out in the mountains right now because I have apprentices out there. They're back in the wilderness setting, and a couple of the apprentices have been really working a lot on forgiveness over the past, about a week, I would say. They've been making amazing progress with it because they are definitely out in the land. They are set up for solitude. For 3 weeks, they won't see anybody but me. And so they have a really good setup to do their deep internal self-healing work.
Yeah.
And when we were working on the forgiveness stuff out there, you know, it really was resonating out beyond the apprentices themselves. It really seemed to be reflecting off of a greater energy that I definitely felt, not only in the wilderness but also kind of in the local atmosphere itself.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of got me to thinking that, yeah, this next show we're doing here, I think forgiveness is definitely what needs to be discussed right now.
This seems to be, and this is deep inner work, because now you're getting into core issues that go right to the soul in terms of being able to really move forward. I don't think we can move forward until we deal with this issue.
You're absolutely correct. It's very difficult. And forgiveness is kind of jumping ahead in the healing process. But that's okay. You know, the process is the way it is, but there is definitely some fluctuation as to which aspects to deal with at any given moment, and that depends upon the individual.
Right. So this is not a linear, predefined thing. It's kind of based on the dynamics of the person themselves.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, everybody ends up going through the same steps, but when you take each step and which order you take the steps in is completely up to you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the way I'm running the show is not really by any stepping stone process, but rather by feeling. You know, where I feel the general audience and just the energy of what's out there right now is calling more potently than say alter identification or, you know, some more basic release and transformation techniques or whatever. Mm-hmm. And forgiveness is absolutely huge. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you've been. I don't care what you've been through. I don't care what you've done. Everybody needs to learn forgiveness. Everybody needs to embrace forgiveness, because it is absolutely impossible to heal until you learn how to forgive. This is just a baseline fact of our existence. And so forgiveness is a completely separate energy altogether from other release work. Yes, it is a step, it is a facet, but it is a whole compartment all to itself. So much so that I actually teach a day and a half course just on forgiveness techniques. So we're going to hit some basics tonight. And at the end of, nearer to the end of this show, we're going to get into some actual forgiveness techniques that we can all utilize in our daily life. But I really want to hammer on the importance of forgiveness first of all. People talk about forgiveness a lot. You know, it's a pretty mainstream idea that forgiveness is very important. A lot of people talk about it, but I've met very, very few people who actually talk about how to forgive, the processes involved, and what you can run into when you begin the process of forgiveness. And this can really trip a lot of people up. You know, you want to forgive. Well, not everybody wants to forgive. Not everybody's there yet. Right. But for the people who want to forgive, you know, it's tricky. Because really, when you think about it, what is forgiveness? You know, forgiveness is actually doing just that. It is telling somebody else that whatever they did to you is okay. It's done, it's past, you've released it, you've dealt with it, you've learned from it, and it's okay. There's no hard feelings, there's no grudges, there's no negative emotions anymore. It is actually a flatline neutral energy that is based upon experience that has been refined through spiritual processes. Which is great when it's all just laid out in words like that. But doing it is another matter. A lot of people, they try to forgive and they latch on to whatever. They latch on to prayers, they latch on to, you know, trying to connect to some type of a spiritual aspect with a person, you know, and they'll forgive. And then a while later, you know, after they think they've succeeded, an issue comes up that presents the same person they thought they've already forgiven, you know, and the process starts again. And it's frustrating. They don't realize why these individuals keep coming back. And then they have to wonder if they're even doing forgiveness work at all, or if it's just an illusion of doing forgiveness work just to try to appease the left hemisphere of the brain.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other issue that I see coming up, and I obviously have a lot of contact with people who have been through extreme trauma, and many of them are people who have been in projects or been in ritual abuse cults and things like that. And the anger and the pain lies just below the surface a lot of times, and then it's triggered and it releases and the person's not in control of it. Do you see that a lot?
Oh yeah, definitely. And we will definitely get into triggering in another show. Triggering might be coming up soon. That might be the next show. I'm not sure. We'll see. Because it's pretty potent. But you're right.
I guess what I'm saying is that what I see is in having conversations with people, the kind of people that we're talking about, which are at the extreme end of the continuum, is that sometimes they don't understand what it is they're dealing with. And then the anger rises up and you begin to hear, and I hear this a lot, White Wolf, it has to do with parents, or it has to do with authority figures or people that have betrayed them, or the people who conducted them into, you know, whatever their situation is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're exactly right. And what I'm getting at is that is all self-triggering. Which we'll definitely cover in another show. But the self-triggering comes, well, we'll talk about that later.
But I don't want to lead you off on that. I just was kind of, addressing things that I see out there, but the forgiveness seems to lie at the root of something here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're right, because, anybody who has had any kind of trauma in their life, and you could pretty much put everybody in the world in that category.
Oh, yeah.
They have somebody to forgive. They have multiple people to forgive. And a lot of people, when they get down to it, the most basic people they have to forgive are their parents or their siblings, because these are the individuals who they have the closest contact with for the longest period of time in the early aspects of their life. Most people. Mm-hmm. Some people are orphans or raised by their uncles or their grandparents or people who aren't even blood family. But whoever the authoritative parenting figure was during childhood is normally a figure that the individual finds at some point in their life they have to forgive, because nobody's perfect. Some people do their darndest to try to really, really walk a good life and really raise kids properly, but they're not perfect. They make mistakes. They yell when they shouldn't yell. They maybe will hit when they shouldn't hit. They punish in ways that they shouldn't. And even though this seems to be maybe lightweight in some fashions, if the parent is really caring, to the child, it's very traumatic. It doesn't matter how lightweight it is compared to somebody else's punishment. It's still the child's mind, perspective, and emotional state that you're dealing with. And in this state, all events can be greatly amplified, and even twisted out of proportion in some cases, in the child's perspective. And in other cases, it isn't blown out of proportion whatsoever. The abuse upon the child is extreme. And any kind of abuse on a child, whether it be traumatic, mentally, physically, emotionally, whether it be spiritual abuse, it doesn't matter what kind of abuse it is. None of it is acceptable. If you have an issue with a child, then you find non-violent ways to deal with it. If you can't, you are walking a very negative road. You are traumatizing that child through and through to the core. And that child's mind, their emotional tool bag, their mental tool bag, is not developed enough to understand how to deal with it. And so a simple smack across the face can be something like, it can just distort the entire child's viewpoint on the world, on relationships, on everything else. Yeah. So anyway, this is why children usually endure the most abstract traumas within their own psyche, because they have a limited tool bag to work with. And depending upon the intensity of the trauma, this can cause fragmentation of the mind. This can lead to alter personalities, etc., etc. And so normally, actually, everybody I have dealt with throughout the years has found that somewhere inside them, they need to forgive their parents, both or one of their parents. Many people that I have met also need to forgive their siblings. Some people in that category also need to forgive other family members like aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever it happens to be. So the baseline forgiveness area within a family line normally starts with parents and siblings. Now, when we roll outside of the family, then we get into a whole network of possibilities as to where forgiveness has to fall into play. This can be children at school, peers, classmates. This can be, people on sports teams you go out with. This can be something as extreme as mind control projects, the individuals who are running the projects, the individuals who are working in the programs, the individuals who are actually Their jobs are to actually act out and deliver the trauma, to the children or the teenagers. It could be authorities. A lot of people have been abused by authoritative figures in the past. So the whole realm of forgiveness, is quite vast and has many facets and possibilities as to who the figures are that need to be forgiven. And it doesn't matter who they are. I have come out of these projects. Yes, I have had to do forgiveness with every member of my family. I have had to do forgiveness with certain neighbors that I had. I have had to do forgiveness on, children that I went to school with, teachers. I've had to do forgiveness on old bosses. I've had to do forgiveness on people who I thought were my friends. And then, of course, I had to do forgiveness on, everybody who was involved in the Black Ops project that I came out of. I've had to seek forgiveness for every single life that I have taken, from people that no longer exist in this world. I have also sought forgiveness for every animal that I have ever hunted or, taken part in the killing of or the consuming of, Forgiveness is not just, human in orientation. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And notice what I did here with this wording. I started talking about forgiving others who have wronged me, and I rolled it into forgiving myself.
That's
seeking forgiveness of self for doing the things that I have done. Because nobody on this earth today or that has ever lived has walked a path so perfect that they have avoided the need to seek self-forgiveness. Now, when we're talking about forgiving people, there are a number of ways to approach forgiveness. A lot of the ways that I have seen out there approach it by forgiving others who have in some way wronged you. And this is where most people want to look at first. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And this has to do, the energy, the need to forgive somebody else for wronging you actually stems from your child energy. It doesn't have anything to do with your adult energy. It is completely separate from your adult energy. It all has to do with your child energy. Because you're taught as a child to do the right thing, and if you do the wrong thing, you're punished, you're bad, you're evil, whatever it happens to be, whatever upbringing or walk of life you came from. And so it's immediately conditioned and imprinted in the child's mind that if you do wrong, you need to say, I'm sorry, you need to seek forgiveness. And so it also goes to play that the child, like we talked about earlier, the emotional state can be harmed so easily because the child's emotions are so frail, so fresh, like a spring flower. And so when the child feels wronged, they immediately want comforting. They immediately want somebody to say and show them that they're sorry. So they immediately want the forgiveness. And this takes a root deep in the psyche of the human being. So as the human being progresses, if they are not doing inner child work, which we will also address at a later date, then those inner childs remain locked in the traumatic ages that the child experienced. So if you received some serious trauma when you were 5 years old, that child went through a series or a stage of dissociation, meaning it separated itself, part of its psyche separated itself in the mental matrix and did not take part in the growing process of the rest of the individual. Therefore, it's left behind emotionally. So when people are looking for forgiveness and saying, well, I need to forgive these people for wronging me, this is the child energy talking. This is the emotionally challenged and hurt and left behind child energy. And if that is where you need to approach forgiveness from in the beginning, then that's absolutely fine. Until you learn how to approach the inner child and mature the inner child and unite that inner child's psyche back in with your adult matrix. So, one method for approaching forgiveness that deals with trying to forgive others for doing something to you is the following exercise. And as normal, we start by taking nice, deep, cleansing breaths. We're going to take 3 of them again. And remember, we're going to breathe in through the nose, and we're going to visualize the air spiraling down the spine all the way to the base of the spine, where it then spirals, returns back up the spine, and then is exhaled out through the mouth. That is one complete breath cycle. So go ahead right now and take 3 full breath cycles. In through the nose, down the spine to the base, where it spirals, returns back up the spine, and exhales through the mouth. 2 more. And as in past meditations that we've done, we're going to visualize a royal blue circle or sphere between the eyes. 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional royal blue circle or sphere. You're going to center a royal blue dot in that circle or sphere. You're going to sync visually that royal blue circle with the royal blue dot directly behind your third eye, sinking deep into the center of your head where it meets your pineal gland. And if you need assistance visualizing that, put 1 finger by your ear and 1 finger on your third eye. Draw a line from your ear to the center of your head, and draw a line from your third eye to the center of your head, and where those meet is your pineal gland. Sync the royal blue circle with the royal blue dot to your pineal gland, thus balancing it. Now we're going to balance the brainstem as well. You're going to visualize a brown line coming up your spine and stopping at the base of your skull. You're going to draw another brown line from the end of that one at the base of your skull up to the left side of your brain. Back down to that junction where the two lines meet. You're going to draw another brown line from that junction up to the right side of your brain. You have just created a brown letter Y. In the mouth of that Y, you're going to again visualize another royal blue circle or sphere right in the center of the mouth of that Y, just directly over your brainstem. Balance that sphere or circle by centering a royal blue dot. And then sink that royal blue circle with the royal blue dot in to the center of your head where it meets the other royal blue circle with the royal blue dot and becomes one. Now, go ahead and put yourself in a royal blue sphere so that you're standing or floating inside of a giant royal blue sphere around you. Around the outside of that royal blue sphere, I want you to create 3 violet spheres, one outside of the other. And now what you're going to do is you're going to visualize the color gold, pure gold. If self-sabotage kicks in and tries to change that color or prevent you from seeing that color, I want you to visualize something that is the color gold, like a shiny gold bar or a shiny gold ring. Give the color sustenance, give it form so that you can focus on the color itself. And allow the color gold of that object to expand, to overflow out of that object until the object dissolves into gold light. Now from here, you're going to think of someone that you feel you need to forgive. Doesn't matter who it is. The first person that comes into your mind besides yourself. So another person, mother, father, boyfriend, girlfriend, relative, co-worker, whoever it is. I want you to think of them, and I want you to picture them in the gold light. They are suspended in the gold light. at this point, you draw or visualize a golden cord coming out of your medium green heart chakra. The gold cord begins to extend outside of your heart chakra with a medium green casing for about a foot, and then it turns to solid gold and continues until it connects with the individual's heart chakra in front of you. And then I want you to go ahead and visualize a golden cord coming out of your pineal gland or the royal blue sphere, like a golden beam of light. Comes straight out between your eyes and connects with the individual's pineal gland in front of you. Once these connections are made in gold, you can then recite to yourself and to the individual who is suspended in gold, I openly and completely forgive you for any and all imbalanced actions you have committed against me on all levels of my existence, and I release you. Now immediately I want you to flood those two golden cords with pure violet. The violet saturates the cords from your body outward, consuming the gold in violet. And when that violet reaches the other person, they will either begin to dissolve into a violet light, or they will explode into a violet light until they are completely dissipated. And now, I want you to visualize yourself in front of your eyes, suspended in the golden light. It does not matter if you look the way you do now, or you look the way you did 5 years ago, or 20 years ago, so long as it is you. Once you can clearly see yourself suspended in the golden light, I want you to recite the following. I completely and openly forgive myself on all levels of my being for any and all non-beneficial actions I I have done unto myself or allowed to be done unto me by another. I release all need of self-punishment, anger, guilt, shame, and I am free. And see yourself dissolve into a violet light until there is nothing left before you but pure golden light. Now place yourself in the now in a heavy brown sphere around your body. Heavy earthen brown. Fill your feet, your legs, and your hands with heavy earthen brown. At this point in time, if you wish to place the protection frequency that I went over last radio session around you, you may do so. And this concludes that meditation.
That was pretty intense.
Forgiveness work usually is. Now this exercise, I go over this exercise in, I believe, I've got 2 forgiveness CDs. I don't remember if it's in the first one or the second one. There's a lot of information on there. But this exercise is found somewhere in there. The slight variation on the CD, I believe, is that I talk about a golden, some type of an object. You can call it an altar, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't really matter. Because when I was taught forgiveness work by my childhood teacher, Michkelaine, he would talk about entering the sacred space of spirit within, which is basically just, making sure that you're in a centered, grounded, balanced state. Mm-hmm. And then once you were in the sacred spirit space within, then he would talk about the golden light. And, it was interesting because he would always just talk about the golden light, because gold is the frequency of the source of light. Source of life, which he called the Great Spirit. And so you would bypass, all other frequencies and go directly to the Great Consciousness. And this is the aspect, the neutral zone, where you would do your forgiveness work. And this is why he utilizes gold. This is why I utilize gold. And the golden light always worked very well for me. I did find a number of people in the past who had a very hard time visualizing just the golden light. They needed some type of form, some type of solidity in it. And so by studying some other people's work, I realized that they were suggesting people actually create some type of a golden altar. That that's fine as well. Whichever way you want to do it. I prefer the golden light, but if you want to create some type of a golden table or stone altar, that's your choice. Just so long as it's in gold, it doesn't really matter. And it's interesting because another aspect of Michkelain's way of doing it was he never, ever taught me to put anyone else in that golden light. The only person he ever told me to put in that golden light was myself. And this is where the meditation that we just went through is, in my view, a little backwards. And I still honor it and teach it because it certainly works for some people to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. But I have not met anyone so far who has gone through this who has not run into issues down the line. And the issues are, most people, especially people who have had some real heavy trauma in their past, have so many people to forgive that it takes them forever to run through the list, because this meditation, technically speaking, is designed to bring one person after another person after another person into the golden light, forgive them, and dissolve them in violet. Now, if you have a couple hundred people to forgive,
it's going to be a long exercise.
It is, and you have to do it more than once. You have to do this exercise with the same people until they no longer come back. If you cannot visualize that person anymore, and there is no desire whatsoever in you to bring that person into the golden light, then you have absolutely forgiven them. But if you can still bring them up there, if you can still visualize them, if you feel the need to, then you still have forgiveness work to do with them. So you can see how this can be an extremely long process. You may have 200 people to forgive, and maybe 150 of them will take you 5 years of daily work to be able to forgive completely. All right, that's a ridiculous amount of work. Most of us have lives to lead, so
yeah.
And so this is why Michkelain never told me to put anyone up there besides myself. And as I began to go through my intense healing after my poisoning in 2005, I realized I could only get so deep with myself, and I could only make so much progress in my healing without addressing the healing the forgiveness aspect. I began to realize how vitally important and essential the progression of forgiveness was to the healing path. And so I began to utilize the technique that Michkelain taught me, which was putting myself only in the golden light. I forgave myself every single day, ongoing. And then I ended up running into another couple techniques where they were putting other people in the front. And these techniques always dictated that you were the last person in the golden space. You actually ended the meditation by putting yourself in there. But everybody else came first. So I said, well, I'll try it. So I tried it for quite a while. And I didn't have any luck at all. It took forever. And so I went back, and I got very frustrated with it. So I went back and I started just doing me and only me. And one day, about 2 years in, it hit me. It was absolutely amazing. I was doing the exercise, and I was out in the mountains, and I was in Vermont here. And I remember it was a beautiful early summer day, and I was sitting in the mountains, and I was up pretty high, and I was sitting on some rocks, surrounded by some nice giant maples. And I was doing the meditation, and my sight went golden. And I could feel this amazing darkness just lift out of me and dissolve. It was actually a very incredible feeling, something that I really can't explain. It's something you just have to feel and experience for yourself. And afterward, I realized that I didn't have anybody to forgive. I could honestly look back, and I could honestly look, at the people from the training facility. I could look back and I could look at David, who was the head of the training facility, and I could look at Tyrone, who was the head of the physical training, and I could look at Carl, who was the head of the astral assassination area, and I could look at all the people who were involved in my original breaking torture progress. I could look at all the people in my past beyond that who wronged me. I could look all the way back to my childhood. And then I could also look at, at all the negative things, with all the non-beneficial actions that I have done in my life. And it didn't hold any energy anymore. It was a neutral energy. And I realized then and there that I had attained true forgiveness. And I actually did the meditation that we just went through, and I tried to bring these other people in to make sure. And I couldn't do it. Nobody was there. As soon as I would even try to bring somebody in, they would already dissolve. I realized that it was done. And I did it just by focusing on forgiving myself. Because that's where forgiveness has to happen. It has to happen in yourself. You can try to forgive all these other people, but until you forgive yourself, it is impossible to forgive anyone else. That's a baseline fact. You can't forgive your mother, your father, your programmer, your torturer, your rapist. You can't forgive anyone until you can forgive you. That is just the way it works.
Is that because we basically feel responsible for what's happened to us internally, even if we've never really explicitly said that or understood it?
Exactly. It's exactly correct. Because subconsciously, each and every one of us knows that everything that has ever happened to us has happened to us because we have called it to us by our mind patterns, by our own imbalances. We required those lessons in our life so extreme to force ourselves to heal and evolve past it. And so we feel responsible because we are responsible. Yes, the other people definitely had a hand in it. But nothing can happen to us unless it's in our mind patterns to begin with.
So this plays into responsibility. This is actually, I'm seeing this, and this actually, it's like you shoot out the other end and suddenly you've taken the responsibility, not just for what happened to you, but for your own healing.
Yes. All the way through. People who are angry at people in their past, people who have been doing their healing work for a long time and they still have such a rage for people in their past, they have no idea how to do forgiveness work. And even if they have an idea, they certainly have not mastered it yet. They have not attained a level of forgiveness in themselves. Because once they do, this rage is gone. It is. It doesn't exist. It's based upon the ability to feel like a victim, to feel hurt, to feel abused, even upon yourself. It's about self-punishment. It's not about forgiveness. If you can learn to forgive, then you can learn to let it go. If you can't let it go, then you're not forgiving yourself. And you need more work to do. a lot more work. But my suggestion is that the only person that you put in that golden light is you. You can do the other exercise if you want by bringing other people in. That's absolutely fine. But there will come a point in time where you realize that the only person that you really need to put in there is yourself. Every single day.
See, for me, I went through this whole thing and we got to the end of that exercise, and then what you just addressed was so monumental, to be able to take responsibility, to understand that you hold the power. And see, this is the thing that a lot of people don't understand, is they get into a victim mentality. And they like the victim mentality because it's the only safe place they've ever really known.
Mm-hmm. It's addictive.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I'm speaking for myself here, because I got to tell you, for me, this has been personally impactful to go through this. I mean, I know this stuff in my head, but knowing it in the heart's another matter.
Yes. There's a big disconnect between mind and heart. Yeah. That people need to reconnect. What was the question, Randy? The
question, you worked with Mishkelin when you were young. How effective is this on, let's say, children of a certain age?
I have actually seen it to be very successful on children who are around puberty, even a couple of years before. So, between like 10, from like 10 and up. Earlier than that, I see that children can definitely get the concept, but it's difficult for them to formulate why. Yeah, and that was what I expected you to say, because they haven't developed, I guess, even what you might call in psychology the ego sense or the sense of self enough to be able to wrap their heads around this. Yeah, and even when it comes to like 10-year-olds, 11, 12, 13, even some 14-year-olds, it depends upon the maturity of the child. Some are able to pick it up very easily, and others really have no concept yet. So it definitely comes down to the individual. But I have seen children utilize it very well, and like I said, others need to mature some more before they can get the concept. Yeah. And that's the great thing about healing, is that, it's simple work. It's very heavy, very potent, and extremely painful at times. But the work of it itself is simple. It's like one of those goofy digital images that you have to like blur and dull your eyes to be able to see the picture. Yep. You sit there and you do the work, and it's quite simple. You just sit there and you try to lose focus and blur your eyes, and you sit there and you just keep doing it, and it seems pointless for a while. It's like, and you get this drive. It's like, I'm gonna see this, and then one day you just go, oh, I'm just gonna do this, and boom, you see the image. You relax it. You let it go. You basically, and it just it just happens. Yeah. And you feel it, and there's a sense of relief. So there's something else, too. People will probably go through the exercise, and they'll probably maybe be discouraged the first time out or after going through it a number of times. And there's an aspect with certain people, and I can speak to this, of being, I guess, performance-oriented. I was raised that way. I was trained that way. And we become disillusioned very quickly with our own efforts. Yes, definitely. This is not something that happens overnight. Like I said, I put myself in that golden light every single day for 2 years. Every single day without fail for 2 years. Before I actually felt it. But I knew it would work. I knew it would work through and through, and so I kept at it. And after 2 years, it did work. And the effort I put into it for 2 years, and the questioning and the frustration for 2 years, was beyond worth it. But there's another angle to this that I'll put in here at the end. And that forgiveness work is layers. You will forgive yourself, and you will forgive yourself. And then one day it will click and you will feel the weight lift. And then you'll feel very good for a while. And then another layer will surface, and you will have to forgive yourself again until you get a relief. And then again, another layer will surface. Forgiveness work is ongoing. It is simple. It is to the point. But it is a layered process that will continue for as many layers of you that have been traumatized and separated from your core personality. And that can be a lot. So there's no need to go out there and try to forgive, the 200 people on your list. Just focus on you again and again and again. Because as you go through the healing process, you will attain different levels of self, different layers of healing. And you will find that on many of those levels and layers, you will be faced with what seems to be the exact same thing again. And this can be very frustrating and confusing. But don't get frustrated or confused. Understand that it is not the exact same thing. It is another level you have hit, a deeper level, a more complete level that you're addressing. And just as dropping that pebble in the pond creates concentric rings across the surface, it also creates concentric rings lower in the water level. And so it's the same with trauma. It's the same with everything you've been through. It affects you on many levels of your being. And so when you approach the top level and you do all this hard work and you sweat and there's tears and finally it works and you get a breath of fresh air, and then maybe 2 weeks later, 6 months later, a year later, something that's very similar or very familiar comes back around and you get angry. You go, I thought I did this. Why is it back? Well, it is not back. It's just another level. It's another layer.
Yeah.
You are making progress, but there are many layers. And in the beginning, when that layer comes up, it will seem like it's exactly the same. But as you go through the releasing process of it and the forgiving process, you will realize that it is indeed different with a different energy. And the trick is to just keep doing it. There's nothing else to do. If you want to heal, there's only one way, and that is forward. Many paths, but they all go forward. If you're not going forward, you're stagnant or you're going backwards.
Yeah.
And then it's all for naught.
Well, I think for many people that hear this, both when we release it and over, the time that it'll be out there, this is going to be impactful because it goes right to the core of the healing path, which has to do with really dealing with deep inner work. And people who have gone through this know this is hard, it's difficult, and sometimes it's even hard to start, to begin, because you don't want to touch this. This is deep inner core stuff. So I just encourage people to begin and keep it simple, like you've always said, White Wolf. And this exercise is embedded in this audio. It is something to go back to as a resource. And I hope that some people get free.
Yeah, so do I. It's simple stuff. Keep it simple. Keep it effective. It does work. You've got to have the patience. You've got to have the diligence. And your self-sabotage is going to kick in very strongly. The deeper you go and the more positive, the more beneficial aspects that you reach or attain, the heavier the self-sabotage is going to try stopping you. Until you reach a level where you can surpass that level of sabotage. Because the sabotage is also layered and leveled in there. And so, you'll begin your work and you will have sabotage. You won't be able to see the color gold.
Right. And we can go back to prior programs. We've talked about these programs that are kind of part of us.
Yes. Yeah. And if you can't visualize gold, then get yourself something that is gold, a golden swatch, a color swatch. Okay, something that you can hold in front of you to visualize the gold. Right? Don't be afraid to use visuals if you need them. There are many people who have such extreme self-sabotage that it blocks all inner view and sight. There's nothing wrong with getting something physical. A color swatch works very well, that I found. All right? Hold the color swatch of violet, hold the color swatch of gold, and open your eyes and look at them if you need to. All right? It's very important that you hold the frequencies of these colors. It doesn't matter how you do it. If you can do it with your eyes closed, great. If you can't, use an external source.
Excellent, excellent stuff. Give us an update on anything that's going on up in Vermont with Ways of the Wilderness, and anything that's new on the website as well, White Wolf.
Oh boy, I've been so busy with the apprenticeship program. There's not a whole lot new. A lot of the same old stuff. The apprenticeship program we're about halfway done, so it should be done. Let's see, I think apprentices are coming out on July 3rd. So any of you who have been waiting on phone consultations, I will be picking up phone consultations the second week of July. I'll be starting them up again. I'm not doing them right now because I'm just far too busy. I have completed a few email consultations and scans, some of the shorter ones, so thank you for your patience. I will be getting back to you shortly. And again, the major course is coming up in July. For those of you who might be coming in from out of state, need to plan ahead. That is the 3-day awareness course. There is still room in that, so feel free to check that out on the website. There's actually a link to it now, I believe, on the front page of the website, so it's easy to get to. The Eagle Mind DVD set that I recently released, a lot of R's in there, I have on sale from now all the way through 4th of July. So that's a special sale kind of to get that out there. So if you're interested in that, you can also find that on my website, my store, and there's also a link on my blog to that. And that kind of wraps up in a nutshell kind of what's going on and some of the basic immediate upcoming things.
And that website is Ways of the Wilderness Institute.
Ways of the Wild.
Ways of the Wild. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Ways of the Wild Institute.
There you go. All right. Very good stuff, White Wolf. Thank you for sharing with us again. And thank you out there for listening. And as always, we hope that you prosper on the healing path. We'll be back with another session very soon. I'm Randy Moggins with White Wolf on Atzingen, and this has been The Healing Path.